Hey, hope you're doing well. My name is Jimmy Fung. I'm the founder of a lead generation agency called SalesRate.io. And in today's video, I'll be breaking down one very key insight that I have learned along of my own journey, and one that will hopefully help you answer a bunch of your questions in regarding getting your first few clients, making your first few $1,000s online, and then eventually scaling up your agency. So what I mean by that is, as a complete beginner, for myself, I remember when I was first starting out, I had a lot of question marks, right? I wasn't sure exactly what my next steps were. I had a lot of uncertainties. I didn't really understand the business model, how to get paid. All of these different questions were legitimate concerns, right? But what I realized is, realistically, as a complete beginner, you need to make sure everything is simple, and you really have to zoom out and look at the business objectively and figure out what is the direct problem in front of you and what you need to do to solve that. So in business, this is called business constraints. And as a complete beginner, when you're starting from zero or you're looking to get your first few clients, there really are just three key business constraints that you just have to focus on. I'll be breaking down in the video later on. But basically, once I understood these things, this is the key insight that allowed me to basically go from zero to $10,000 a month in basically 22 days at the end of December last year in 2022. And then I was able to then take my agency from $10,000 a month to $20,000 per month within the next 2 months, right? By the end of February. This was also the key insight that I was able to implement into my business that allowed me to make $150,000 cash collected in the first 7 months of 2023, right? From January to the end of July, I collected $150,000, which is pretty crazy to me. But this is really the key insight, right? There's a bunch of these different insights, but I think this one is definitely the most valuable and the most relevant for people who are looking to build their own agencies. And the basic idea is just to focus on each of these constraints at a time, right? Focus on one thing, figure it out, move on to constraint number 2, figure it out, and then move on to constraint number 3, and then figure it out. But yeah, so that's pretty much what this video is about today. If you like what you see, if you like what I'm telling you, stuff like that, make sure you subscribe, make sure you like the video, make sure you comment down below with feedback, questions, things of that nature. Make sure you also visit my Instagram page. I do post daily reels talking about business related things, different insights that I learned running my own agency, talking to a bunch of people, stuff like that. And I do check my Instagram a little bit more. So if you do have any questions, make sure you slide into my DMs, right? But that's pretty much what I wanted to say. We'll be jumping into a flowchart in the next few seconds. So you already know this video is gonna be fire, but hope you enjoy. Take care. Okay, so we're jumping into this flowchart, and there's a bunch of squares here, so I don't want you to get too confused. What I want you to focus on is these ones at the top here, right? These are what is called the business constraints. So for example, when we're talking about, let's say, the first problem that you might have when you're starting your business is you're sending a bunch of outbound messages, right? A ton of outreach, stuff of that nature. You're sending a lot of emails, but you're just not getting any replies. This is really the first problem, first business constraint you should be looking to solve as a complete beginner. Don't worry about anything else because you have this problem. You're not getting any replies, right? Every other problem stems from this one. So this is the very first problem that you have to figure out inside your business. How do you get more replies? How do you get replies, right? So if you're not getting any replies, which let's say you're not, right? The first thing that you should think about is your ICP, right? Who are you targeting, and do you understand their pain points? Do you understand the challenges, right? Because when you're reaching out to these people, you need to be making sure that you're appealing to their pain points in the sense where you don't want to be selling water. You don't want to be selling something to someone who doesn't want it, in the sense where if they just don't want it, no matter what you say, you're just not going to generate any replies, right? So that's kind of what I'm saying here. Make sure you understand your ICP. I have a video on my YouTube channel talking specifically about how to go about choosing a niche, how to choose an industry, how to conduct research. Make sure you go and watch that video because you need to make sure you truly understand, number one, what the problems and pain points are of your market, and number two, how these businesses get paid and all of that stuff. You need to understand those things. So let's say you figure out that it's not your ICP, right? You understand who you're reaching out to, you understand the problems, you understand the background information. Your next thing is your offer. right? Are you crafting an irresistible offer, or is your offer the exact same as everyone else? Because, for example, when I was doing email marketing, as running an email marketing agency before I started my own lead generation agency, the most common problem I had was something called market saturation, in the sense where everyone was just offering email marketing. Everyone was running ads for these e-commerce brands. So it's very hard to stand out when everyone's offering the exact same thing. And at that point, you basically become a commodity because from the prospect's point of view, they open up their email, they open up their LinkedIn, they open up their Facebook, and all they see are 100 different people saying, hey, we will run your ads, hey, we will run your email marketing, right? So you need to create an irresistible offer. Now there's a ton of resources on the internet. Alex Hormozi actually put together a really, really good book. It's called 100 Million Offers. And as the name suggests, 100 million offers, right? It goes into exactly what you need to do to create what he calls a grand slam offer, or in other words, an irresistible offer, right? I do have another video on my channel talking specifically how you go about crafting your offer, but pretty much you have to make sure you're clear on what you're doing with a clear, tangible results for your audience, right? They need to understand what you do in a very simple way. So you don't want to create too much confusion, really any confusion at all, because a confused mind does not buy. So that's what you have to understand, is you have to create a really good offer, something that sets you apart from all the other people that are inside your market as well. Once you figure out your offer, the next question comes down to messaging, in the sense where there's really 4 buckets. When you're reaching out to people, let's say you understand your audience and you have a pretty good offer. The only thing left, if you're still not getting any replies, is likely something related to your messaging. So what you're specifically saying to these people. So the lowest hanging fruit is volume. Because there's a saying called volume negates luck. And no, I'm not telling you to go out and spam 10,000 people in a single day. That's not what I'm telling you. Because if you send 10,000 garbage messages, it doesn't change the fact that your message is garbage. But what I'm saying is you need to make sure you're doing volume, because assuming you have all the pieces together, you're sending relevant information, stuff like that, volume does make a difference. The person who is sending 50 emails a day or 50 outreach messages, their results are completely different from someone sending 500. And the person sending 500, their results are completely different from someone sending 1,500, right? That's the facts, because volume is exactly how you scale the messaging. Now, like I said earlier, you have to make sure the specific things you say are relevant. You're not just spamming people, saying a bunch of irrelevant stuff, because you can send 10,000 irrelevant messages and it won't change the fact it's still irrelevant, right? So you gotta make sure you do that. But what I'm saying is volume does negate luck, and assuming you have decent messaging, volume is the lowest hanging fruit and the easiest, most simplest way for you to get more replies. The second thing is the right audience. So when I say right audience, I'm not talking about your ICP, because when we're reaching out to these people, there's a difference between who you're reaching out to, as in your target market, versus who you're actually reaching out to. And I know at face value, it might be a little bit confusing, but I made 2 videos on my YouTube channel talking about scraping leads. Now, oftentimes people, they don't know how to scrape leads correctly, or they buy a lead list off of, let's say, Fiverr. They pay someone $50 and to give them a fat email list, stuff like that. But the thing is the context on that email list is important. So if you're sending messages to marketing agencies, but your list is full of recruitment agencies, then that's the disconnect. And that's what I mean by the right audience. So you have to make sure the people that you're reaching out to, specifically the people you're reaching out to, are the right people. If you're meant to reach out to CEOs, then don't be messaging marketing specialists, because the messaging is completely different. And that's what I mean by right audience. So make sure that you're scraping leads the right way. Again, I have 2 really good videos on my YouTube channel talking about how you can scrape leads off of LinkedIn and off of Apollo. So make sure you check those things out. And a lot of people, they struggle with this because they either don't want to invest into these tools, which you kind of have to. And in those videos, I give you a hint as to what I personally do to save yourself a lot of money in terms of scraping leads off of Apollo and LinkedIn. But a lot of people, they're either too scared of investing money or they just don't know how, both of which will be answered in that video. So make sure you're right audience. Make sure you're reaching out to the right people. The next one is the relevant messaging. So again, I have another video. The pattern here, it seems like, is I have a bunch of videos, and that's kind of my goal, breaking down each of these problems so that you can build and scale your own agency. But the next one is relevant messaging. I have a video on my channel. It's called I Sent a Million Cold Emails. Make sure you check that out because that goes into very specific detail of how you need to craft your email message. Now, obviously, there's a lot of people on the internet, a lot of different gurus, a lot of people who sell courses and different information telling you and giving you specific email scripts. I am here to tell you those scripts do not work. And the reason why is, let's say there's a course that you bought. 1,000 people bought that course and it gives you scripts. Well, guess what? All 1,000 of those people inside of that course are using the exact same script as you. And as you can imagine, it's not a good look when you open up your email. Let's put yourself in the mind of the buyer, in the shoes of the buyer, of the lead, of the prospect. You open up your email and you get 5 messages of the exact same wording. Someone basically saying, hey, John, we offer Facebook ads, and you get 5 of those. That's the easiest way to get marked as spam, and it just won't work, basically, right? Again, you're commoditized, right? You will never be able to stand out from everyone else. So you need to make sure that you take the frameworks of what works, being relevant, all of that stuff with specific targeting, with your offer, and you need to make sure you get that stuff across in your own words. So you could copy someone else, but realistically, you need to do it in your own style if you want to have long-term success. And the final constraint and the final solution might be your CTA. So gone are the days where you're emailing people and at the end of the call, the first message is, can we set up a quick 5-minute chat to learn more, right? You used to be able to do that maybe like 3-4 years ago, pre-COVID days. You were able to do that because there's just a lot less people doing cold emails and reaching out. But these days, it's very unlikely you're able to set calls off of the first message you sent or off of the first email sequence. Realistically, you will need lead magnets, sales assets, a more soft CTA as opposed to a hard pitch. Hard pitch in this case is pitching for a meeting, right? You need to test around with these different CTAs and figure out which work. And again, a lot of this has to do with your audience because some certain industries, they are pitched a lot more than others. Marketing agencies are pitched a lot more than let's say the logistics industry. Now, each of them have their pros and cons, but for marketing agencies, there is no way you are pitching a meeting at the end of that first message to marketing agencies. But you might be able to get away with that with logistics companies or manufacturing companies, companies that don't get routinely pitched in that nature. You might be able to get away with those type of CTAs. Again, it's very important you go ahead and test it and understand your market, understand where the demand is and what that looks like. So this is kind of the first question, and that solves the problem, the business constraint of you not getting any replies. So let's say you are getting any replies, but you're not booking any meetings. A ton of people are replying back to your message. They seem interested, but when you look onto your calendar, you're not seeing any calendar invitations. You're not seeing any meetings. So where is that disconnect? So if you're not booking meetings, it really comes down to really 2 things. The first one is trust. People don't trust you. So you have to understand that when you're reaching out to people, when you're emailing them, you're messaging them on LinkedIn, you're messaging on Facebook or Instagram, or you're picking up the phone and calling them, people will automatically label you as a scammer until proven otherwise. So you have to make sure you keep that in mind. People don't know who the hell you are, and you need to make sure that you do everything that you possibly can to make sure people do not think you're a scammer, because that's the automatic assumption, right? So there's 3 different ways that you go about doing that. And under trust, the most important way that I have found is by building lead magnets. So it really ties back to the CTA over here, right? Let me connect this real quick, actually, right? But it really ties back to the CTA as well, because when you're able to create lead magnets, you're becoming an authority inside your niche. You're becoming an authority inside your industry, and you're proving to people that you know what you're talking about. If you don't have any lead magnets, people don't necessarily believe you're able to get the result you say. So as a lead gen agency, let's say your service, you're pitching, I could get you 5 to 20 qualified sales calls a month, but you're just saying things. I could say that too. Someone else could say that. I could say I'll book 100 meetings. That doesn't mean it's true. But if you create lead magnets, let's say you create a PDF or you create a YouTube video talking about how the system that you help set up for those businesses are able to generate 5 qualified meetings every single week, and you break down the process specifically, now you're creating credibility. People start to trust you more because you're showing them how it works. So I can't really stress the importance of lead magnets. Again, gone are the days where you're able to get on meetings without lead magnets or any form of that stuff. There's just a ton of noise on the internet, and you got to do stuff like this to stand out. The next point is credibility, right? And again, this ties back into lead magnets because lead magnets creates credibility. But you need to make sure that you have a presence online. So when people search your name, John Smith, do they find you or not? Are you anonymous, a face behind the business? What does that look like? You also need to make sure that you are putting yourself out there. I know it's a little bit tough at first to, record videos like this. It's a very nerve-wracking thing. I spent many months debating whether I should or should not, but obviously I made the decision too, and I can't stress the importance of how groundbreaking that was for my business. So that's the idea. You got to figure out how to do that as well. There are really a couple platforms that you need to really make sure that you have credibility for. When they search your name, they make sure they find you. And those platforms is LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn is the largest B2B social media platform. People check that the most. Business owners, business people, they check that platform the most. So you gotta make sure you have a LinkedIn profile and make sure it's well optimized. Because if they go onto your LinkedIn profile, they see your name, they see a garbage photo, no headline, no experience, then that's an issue, right? LinkedIn is literally a digital resume, if that makes sense. When you are reaching out to people, they will search your name on LinkedIn. And if they don't see anything there or something that works against your credibility, then it defeats the entire purpose. The next thing that you need is a landing page or a VSL. Now, this doesn't have to be anything too complicated. You don't have to go out, drop $1,000, drop $2,000 to hire a JavaScript developer or anything like that. You just need to set up a very simple landing page. I personally use card.co to do this. And the idea is when you're reaching out to people, again, people automatically label you a scammer. So if let's say you say you're calling in from Agency 123, that's the name of your company, Agency 123, right? And they search agency123.com on Google and they don't see anything, what do you think they'll think? They'll automatically think you're a scammer again. So you gotta make sure you create a landing page so that when people do search you up, and trust me, they will search you up, they see something. They see your website, they see your landing page. Again, it doesn't have to be super fancy. All it really needs is a basic headline, quick one-line headline telling your audience who you help and what your results are. You might want to look into creating a VSL, a video sales letter. So basically a video like this, talking about what you do, stuff like that. I have one on my YouTube channel. It's one of the earlier ones. I think the title is How to Make It Unreasonable to Book 5 to 20 Qualified Sales Calls. Something like that. You take a look. That video was pretty garbage, in my opinion. Nothing too fancy, but it still worked and it still printed a ton of meetings, right? So clearly you don't need anything too crazy. The most important thing is just putting your face in front of the camera and letting people know what you do. And the third thing is content, right? So this entire thing, it really ties back to content. I really do believe that content is the quickest shortcut you can take inside of your agency to sign clients and make money in a very short period of time. Because I think the overall idea is the concept of attention and trust. And by creating content, you solve the trust aspect of things, right? If people go onto your YouTube and they see 15 different YouTube videos of you talking about how you generate leads over the span of 3 or 4 months, they trust you so much more than someone who has just never done that. And when I started creating content for my own business, it really changed the game for me. And obviously, I think you can succeed without content, but if you like money, then I suggest you do that as well, right? If you don't want money, then don't create content, right? Like, I'm not forcing you to create content. I'm just telling you that personally, what I have seen is content really makes a massive difference. And the third thing is it worth their time? So you're reaching out to these people, and the other thing that they think about, other than are you a scammer, is this worth my time? Because at the end of the day, the only way to get onto a call is by pitching, let's say, a 30-minute sales call. And people, they really value their time. I don't want to be jumping onto a call for 30 minutes with someone who I know will not add any value to my life. So in their own minds, what they automatically think when you pitch that meeting is this worth my time? And there's really 2 answers to this. The first thing you could do is create content. So again, tying it back to content, really breaking down your process. You could use a software like this, like Lucid, to really break down that process. And the second thing you should do is create insights. So talk about the business, talk about what you're seeing in the market, what's happening, right? There's a lot of talk right now about the state of the economy. How does that relate to your business, right? Do you think sales will slow down? Do you think it might be harder for these businesses to acquire new customers? If so, this is how you would solve that. talk about those things, the process breakdown and the business insights. You need to be talking about those things and to increase what the prospects believe as to whether the call is worth their time. So these are just some common ideas in terms of content, process breakdown, insights. You could talk about the process and the mechanism used to deliver your transformation, how you will go about generating leads, etc., etc. The second thing is your videos should help them change their beliefs. If they don't believe that cold emails can help them book meetings, I'm sure they'll believe it after you show them the entire process. You show them how powerful it is. You use case studies if you have any. I'm sure after a while, you slowly change their mind and their beliefs as to cold emails does not work. The third thing you should be focusing on is talk about why you. Again, there are a lot of competitors. I'm not saying the market is saturated, but there are competitors. And the number one question you have to understand is, why should that prospect listen to you? Why should they work with you? And an extension of that, why should they pay you thousands of dollars for you to help them solve this problem? There has to be a unique reason why, and content is the perfect way for you to explain that. And then finally, you also want to talk about the outcome of working with you, the tangible end result. You can highlight this with case studies, with testimonials, proof of yourself. And I think that's why I like lead generation as a service so much, is because if you're starting from beginning and you don't have any case studies, you can literally highlight the fact that you're able to book yourself meetings, right? Because that process is very similar. There's no larger social proof than jumping onto these sales calls and telling these business owners, you see how I got you on this sales call? You see how I got you on this Zoom call? That's the exact same way that we'll be using to get your customers onto your sales calls, right? We did it over cold emails. We did it over cold calling. We did it over cold DMs. There's no larger social proof. And those are the type of content video ideas that you can leverage inside of your outreach. So that is basically how you solve the problem of you getting replies, but you not booking any meetings. So let's say you figure that out. Now your next constraint is not closing any sales calls. And this one is definitely the most nuanced, because the other constraints are things that you could literally fix within a day, 2 days, 3 days, maybe a week max, right? You could create a lead magnet in a day. You could create more content in a day. That's not a problem. Now, in terms of the sales cost aspect of it, where you're not closing, there's really a couple of things. Now, obviously, you have to understand that sales is a skill. If you've never sold a single thing in your life, like I have not when I first started, then obviously it's not realistic to expect to walk away with $10,000 by the end of the call, right? That's simply unlikely unless you're just so gifted and you're so naturally talented in the natural sales ability. But 99% of people are not, and if you're watching this video, most likely you are not as well. So you have to understand that sales is a skill that you have to develop. The first time you drove a car, you were probably not the greatest. You probably stomped on the brakes, or you probably accelerated really hard. Whatever the case is, you were just not the greatest at driving that car. But after you drove that car 1,000 times, you're probably pretty decent at it now. You probably got your driver's license, stuff of that nature. And the exact same thing applies to sales. The first call you do, the second call you do, the third call you do, you'll probably be complete garbage at it, and that's the facts. Now, there are certain things you could do to increase your skill. You could buy different courses, join different sales programs, sales training, do role plays, stuff like that. But realistically, those are things that will come with time. You won't be good at sales after a week. You won't be good at sales after 2 weeks. These are things that will take months to improve. And the good news is, inside your business, as you are booking more meetings, each of those calls is the opportunity to improve. So make sure you record your Zoom calls if you're doing them on Zoom or Google Meet. Make sure you record those calls so you could go back and re-watch those sales calls and see where you can improve. So that's pertaining to your natural sales ability and your sales as a skill. But I don't want you to feel all down if you're completely just getting started and you don't have too much experience taking sales calls. I don't want you to become not motivated to do this and use that as a reason for stopping or giving up. Because there are things you can do. I have seen people with really strong accents, or people who are just not good with English. English is not their first language. And I have seen them close $1,000 deals. And there are things you can alter in your favor, because at the end of the day, sales is a trust thing. Right? If someone trusts you and they believe that your service or whatever you're trying to sell them is the means towards getting them to where they need to be and solving their problem, they will pay you money. And that's the most important thing that you have to understand. And there are things you can do to increase that level of trust. For example, the first and most easiest thing, the lowest hanging fruit is getting a VSL. This is what you will put on your website, on your landing page, right? Breaking down your process, who you help, how you help them, and your tangible end result. Make sure you have a VSL, because if you don't, I don't know what you're doing, right? It's so easy to create one. It'll take you half a day max to put this together. The next thing you should focus on is pre-nurturing content, right? So it's back to my point about content, because when you create content, you are able to take care of objections before they even happen. You're able to build trust, you're able to build credibility, and as a result, it's so much easier to close deals when people already come into the calls knowing who you are and trusting you to a degree. So much easier, and that shifts the game into your favor, and that's how people close deals, $1,000 deals, really, really quickly. And the third thing you could do to increase your ability to close deals is shifting to a 2-call close sales process. Now, inside my own agency, and I've made videos about this in the past, I typically like to do 1-call closes. That's what I do, where I don't know anyone and I jump on the call, and at the end of that 30-minute call, I collect invoice a few $1,000s, but that's me, right? I have done almost 1,000 sales calls at this point, so obviously that is possible for myself, but there's no shame in doing 2-call closes. The way you want to do it is on that first call, it's more of a discovery call, where you're understanding the problem, you're understanding why they set up a call, and you're understanding their business model, and you're thinking about how your services, your lead generation services, can fit inside of their business. Focus on that on the first call. And then you set up a second call to pitch your actual service, where at that point you could go in with a slide deck if you have one, or you go in talking about your process, you could talk about case studies if you have them, and you then go for the close in the second call. And that way, your sales cycle is a little bit longer, but I found it to be generally easier to close. In between those 2 calls, you could send more content, send more case studies if you have any. Basically, you're nurturing the prospect, and again, you're reinforcing in their mind that you're not a scammer. I think that's the overall idea with a lot of with this entire process really, is how do you build trust and how do you get attention with who you need. So that's what I would recommend. But basically, these are kind of the 3 questions that you really have to figure out when you're building your own agency. I know there's a lot of stuff in the beginning as a complete beginner, but realistically, if you're able to solve and answer these 3 questions, how do you get replies, how do you book meetings, and how do you close a sales calls, you will be making money. I have yet to see someone who knows how to do all 3, who answers yes to all 3, and they're not making money, because that's simply not true, right? If you're not getting any replies, that's an attention problem. You need more attention on what you do in your business. If you're not booking any meetings, you just don't have trust. That's a trust problem. And if you're not closing any sales, again, it's a trust problem, or you're just really, really bad. But there are things, like I said, that you could do to push the odds in your favor, and it's still possible to close deals regardless. So those are the 3 business constraints that you should be focusing on as a complete beginner. Don't focus too much on the other stuff. These are really the only 3 things that you need to do. And if you put your head down for the next 90 days, waking up, focusing on these problems, focusing on the problem ahead of you actually, right? Because if, let's say, you're not getting any replies, then don't worry about not closing sales calls, because you have no sales calls to close. But if you wake up every single day and you tackle one problem at a time, each of these constraints at a time, you will make money at the end of the 90 days, and I guarantee it, right? So that's what I wanted to review in this video, and hope this was helpful. So that's pretty much what this video is about today. I hope you enjoy it. Again, if you like it, make sure you subscribe, make sure you like the video, make sure you comment down below with your questions and comments. Again, I do check my Instagram more, so make sure you give my page a follow. DM me there if you have any questions. I do check it more. But I wanted to use the end of this video to really talk about something at a very high level, right? So basically, these last few weeks, I've been focusing a lot more on pushing content onto my YouTube channel, teaching different people how they could personally go about building their own lead generation agency. I'm basically building a course that I am giving away completely for free. It's on YouTube, it's a playlist. Some of the videos that I posted the last few days, last few weeks are part of that course, right? They're very long. I put in as much detail as I can, right? And my goal with that free course is so that really anyone who watches that, if they take consistent action every single day, you will make money. right? As long as you take action, right? If you just take that information and you don't do anything with it, you procrastinate, then obviously you're not gonna make money, right? But my goal with those free content is so that anyone could watch it, take action, and make money, right? But for those people, it might take them 6 months, it might take them a year, it might take them 2 years, right? Because realistically, all of that is just information, right? That's the what of how you do things. And some people, or most people actually, they need the how, right? And that's why I offer a consulting service that I run on the side alongside my agency. Pretty much I work with different people who are looking to build and start their own lead generation agencies, get it from zero, signing their first few clients and getting it to $10,000 a month. It's a 3-month consulting arrangement, basically where I work one-on-one with you, with different people, and I answer all your questions, right? Because at the end of the day, even in this video, right, this is a really good example of it. This video is an insight in the sense where if you just take the information that I give you, if you buy a different course from someone on the internet, that's just information, right? But you need different insights in order to grow your business quickly. And I decided to make this video because, again, I want to give away as much as I can in as much detail as I possibly can for free, right? But at the end of the day, you need to understand different lessons like this. It's not just about how do I, buy these domains, set them up, write the email scripts, send off emails, pick a niche. It's not just about those things. Those things are important, yes. But realistically, if you want to make a ton of money in a very quick period of time, you will need more guidance, right? That's just the facts. And you need to learn more about key insights like this, right? Because I'm sure no one else on YouTube has put together a video talking about these 3 constraints like I have today. It's honestly one of the best insights that I have learned, right? But you're not gonna find that in a course, right? You're not gonna find that as information, right? Realistically, the only way you learn that is if someone like myself who's been through that has told you directly and taught you this, or you go through the trenches for half a year, for 2 years of struggling and not making any money, and you figure this out on your own, right? So that's why people work with me, is because I provide that extra guidance, that extra mentorship. So if pretty much my offer to you is, if you want additional guidance, if you want to build your business from $0 to $10,000 a month in the next 3 months, then set up a time. I put my calendar down below. Let's chat. Let's see if I can actually help you. The only thing is you need to be serious about this, right? Because for myself, I'm doing this one-on-one. I obviously have my own agency to run. And if I start consulting with a bunch of people who are not super serious about building their own agency business, it takes a lot of time, right? And I'm doing these one-on-ones, and if you're not serious, then essentially not only are you just wasting your own time, but you're wasting my time as well. So that's the only requirement, is you have to be serious about, about building your own agency for this to work. But yeah, so pretty much that is my offer. And at the end of the 6 months, so the consulting program actually is 3 months, but by the end of the 6 months, if you're still not at $10,000 a month, then I will refund you in full, right? Because it's just not really worth my time. At that point, if you do everything I tell you to do and you're still not making money, then I don't know, right? Like, I don't know what else more I can do for you, right? Because realistically, if you take action every single day, then you will find success. That's just the way it works. That's the rule of success. But yeah, that's pretty much this video. Don't want to spend too much time more on this. If you're interested, just set up a time on my calendar and we'll chat over Zoom. But hope you enjoyed this video, and take care. Bye-bye.